Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're unpacking a seriously epic architectural leap in ancient India. We're looking at the dramatic shift from, carving massive monoliths straight out of solid mountains to engineering complex, freestanding structures right from the ground up. It's this fascinating journey of innovation, problem-solving, and, as we're going to see, a few pretty fatal flaws.
To really wrap our heads around this leap, we have to look at the methods. Think of rock cut or subtractive architecture, kind of like sculpting a statue out of a single massive block of wood. You're removing material to reveal the space. Freestanding masonry, on the other hand, is additive. It's way more like building an intricate model using Lego bricks, assembling the whole thing piece by piece from the ground up. This shift absolutely redefined what was possible for ancient engineers. And what we have here brilliantly illustrates the absolute pinnacle of that subtractive era. This is a recently excavated 1,500-year-old stepped reservoir at the Elephanta Caves. The engineers meticulously carved top-down into solid, incredibly hard volcanic basalt rock to create it. But here's the catch. This approach relied entirely on actually having a mountain to carve into. So what happens when a powerful empire needs to build an impressive temple complex on flat land where there are literally no mountains?
Looking at the timeline, we can see how this builds over the centuries. We start with the early rock-cut Barabar caves way back in the 3rd century BC, moving to the magnificent basalt carvings of Elephanta around the 5th and 6th century CE. But to solve that tricky no-mountain problem, by the 9th century CE, engineers of the powerful Rashtrakuta Dynasty, working under King Amoghavarsha I, transitioned entirely to freestanding masonry. And they didn't just build solitary temples, they built an entire architectural matrix.
Part 1. Navalinga, the 9-shrine matrix.
This brings us to their ultimate freestanding case study, the 9th century Navalinga Temple Complex, located in the town of Kuknur over in Karnataka. This wasn't just a single building, right? It was an ambitious, interconnected cluster that totally pushed the boundaries of the era's engineering. The crucial point to remember here is the name itself, Navalinga. Literally translates to 9 shrines. And what's super fascinating is the history etched into the stone. Inscriptions tell us these 9 shrines were actually originally dedicated to the Shaktism tradition, so worshipping goddesses like Saraswati, Kalika Devi, and Chamundi. It was only later in history, after being damaged and eventually abandoned, that the complex was appropriated and reconsecrated to the Hindu God Shiva, which is why today all 9 shrines house a Shiva linga.
Now let's look at this multi-core matrix layout. Honestly, think of it like a modern modular space station. You've got 9 distinct, independent shrines, and each one is crowned with a spire or shikhara in that early South Indian Dravidian style. But rather than standing completely on their own, they plug into these shared communal central hubs. Specifically, they share 4 central mantapas or halls. 3 are perfectly aligned, and a 4th was added on later. It's a beautifully sophisticated master plan.
Part 2. Engineering the Dravidian spires.
But here's the thing. Building up rather than carving down presented a massive engineering challenge for the Rashtrakutas. When you carve a temple into a mountain, like at Elephanta, the mountain itself acts as your support. When you build from the ground up, you have to fight gravity yourself. So, here is the million-dollar engineering question of the 9th century. Without the solid bedrock of a mountain, how did they keep the massive, crushing vertical weight of those early Dravidian stone spires from structurally shearing, sinking, and ultimately collapsing the entire temple?
The incredibly elegant solution they came up with was the adhisthana. Basically, this is a low or medium load-bearing footing, or plinth, that forms the foundation of the structural temple. Think about how a snowshoe works for a second. If you walk out into deep snow in regular boots, you sink, right? But a snowshoe distributes your vertical load across a much wider surface area, keeping you perfectly stable on top of the snow. The adhisthana does exactly that for the immense weight of the masonry above it, distributing the load into the earth and ensuring these heavy stone spires stayed upright for over a millennium.
Part 3. The sandstone Achilles heel. So, while their structural engineering was undeniably visionary, the Rashtrakutas made one fatal flaw in their execution at Navalinga, and it actually had nothing to do with their math or their layout, but absolutely everything to do with their materials. Let's compare their material choice to the past for a second. The Elephanta caves were carved out of dense, super durable volcanic basalt, a stone that pretty much laughs at the weather. But for the Navalinga complex, the builders went with a local sandstone. Now, sandstone is fantastic for builders because it is incredibly easy to cut, carve, and assemble.
but exposing inferior sandstone to centuries of wind and rain, it's literally like leaving a sugar cube in a rainstorm. It degrades, flakes, and slowly washes away.
Because of this rapid weathering, the incredible artistic details of the Navalinga complex have suffered immensely over the years. The intricate Makara sculptures, these gorgeous mythical beasts with florid tails and circular scales carved over the architraves, they've severely eroded. And the stunning reliefs on the pillars, depicting epic scenes from the Mahabharata and Ramayana, are fading fast. In a desperate attempt to preserve the eroding stone and just keep the shrines physically standing, generations of locals have had to repeatedly plaster and whitewash the structures. It kept the buildings up, sure, but tragically, it obscured much of the original breathtaking artwork underneath.
So as we wrap up our look at the Navalinga complex, we are left staring at a pretty profound contradiction. We see this incredible architectural innovation, the matrix layout, the genius Adhisthana load distribution, paired with a fatal material flaw that slowly erased the structure's beauty. It leaves us with a vital, kind of provocative question. When we design our own modern cities today, how well do our building choices actually balance the immediate ease of construction against the unforgiving test of time? Definitely something to think about next time you look at the buildings around your own neighborhood.